The city was dying. The air was thick with smoke, and the streets were littered with debris. People moved like shadows, their faces hollow and eyes empty. The world had become a place of survival, not living. In the middle of this chaos, a small house stood, its windows boarded up, its door barely hanging on its hinges. Inside, a woman in her late 60s sat on a worn-out couch, clutching a strange device in her hands. It was small, metallic, and covered in symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. Her daughter, a woman in her 30s with sharp features and tired eyes, stood in front of her, fists clenched. "You need to leave," the daughter said, her voice trembling but firm. "There's no food, no water. I can't take care of you anymore." The elderly woman looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and determination. "I understand," she said softly. "But this device, it's important. Your father." "Stop," the daughter shouted, cutting her off. "Dad's gone. His crazy experiments didn't save anyone. They just made things worse. Now, get out." The elderly woman hesitated, then slowly stood up. She placed the device in her pocket and picked up a small bag of belongings. Without another word, she walked to the door. The daughter watched her go, her face a mask of anger and guilt. As the elderly woman stepped outside, the cold wind hit her face. She looked back once, but the door was already closed. She took a deep breath and began walking down the deserted street. The device in her pocket felt heavy, as if it carried the weight of the world. Hours passed, and the sun began to set. The elderly woman found herself in an abandoned park. She sat on a broken bench and pulled out the device. Her fingers traced the glowing symbols, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to cry. "I'm sorry," she whispered, as if speaking to her late husband. "I don't know what to do." Suddenly, the device began to hum. The symbols glowed brighter, and a small screen lit up. The woman stared at it in shock as a message appeared, "Signal sent. Awaiting response." She didn't know what it meant, but a strange sense of hope filled her heart. She held the device tightly and looked up at the sky. The stars were hidden behind the smoke, but she knew they were there. Somewhere out there, someone, or something, had heard her. The elderly woman sat on the broken bench, staring at the device in her hands. The glowing symbols had faded, but the screen still displayed the message, "Signal sent. Awaiting response." She didn't understand how it worked or what it meant, but she knew one thing: her husband had always believed in this device. He had spent years working on it, often staying up late into the night, muttering about saving humanity. She had never fully understood his work, but now, holding the device, she felt a strange connection to him. The park around her was silent, except for the occasional sound of distant explosions. The world was falling apart, and she was alone. But the device gave her a glimmer of hope. She decided to keep moving, to find a safer place where she could figure out what to do next. As she walked through the empty streets, memories of her husband flooded her mind. He had been a kind man, always dreaming of a better future. He had tried to warn people about the coming crisis, but no one had listened. They had called him a mad scientist, a doomsayer. Even their daughter had lost faith in him. But now, as the world crumbled, his work might be the only thing that could save them. Hours later, the woman found an abandoned warehouse. It was dark and cold, but it offered shelter from the harsh elements. She sat down in a corner, clutching the device. Exhaustion overtook her, and she drifted into a restless sleep. In her dreams, she saw her husband. He was standing in a bright, unfamiliar place, surrounded by strange machines. He smiled at her and said, "You've done well. The signal has been sent. Help is on the way." She woke up with a start, her heart racing. The device was glowing again, and the screen now displayed a new message: response received. Assistance incoming. The woman's hands trembled as she held the device. "What does this mean?" she whispered to herself. Before she could think further, a loud noise echoed outside the warehouse. It wasn't the sound of an explosion or collapsing buildings, it was different. It was a deep, resonant hum, like nothing she had ever heard before. She cautiously peeked out of the warehouse door. The sky, usually hidden behind smoke and clouds, was now lit up with a strange, pulsating light. The hum grew louder, and she realized it was coming from above. She stepped outside, her eyes fixed on the sky. Suddenly, a massive object appeared through the clouds. It was sleek and metallic, with lights that shimmered in patterns she couldn't understand. It moved silently, descending slowly toward the ground. The woman's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't a plane or a helicopter. It was something entirely alien. The object landed a few hundred meters away, sending a shockwave through the ground. The woman hesitated, unsure whether to approach or run. But the device in her hands began to glow brighter, as if urging her forward. She took a deep breath and started walking toward the object. As she got closer, she saw a door open on the side of the object. A figure emerged, tall and slender, with smooth, silver skin and large, glowing eyes. It looked at her, and though it had no mouth, she heard a voice in her mind. "We have received your signal," it said. "We are here to help." The woman's knees almost gave out. She had no words, only questions. Who were they? What did they want? And most importantly, could they really save what was left of humanity? The elderly woman stood frozen, staring at the tall, silver figure in front of her. Its glowing eyes seemed to look straight into her soul, and the voice in her mind was calm but firm. "We have received your signal," it repeated. "We are here to help." The woman clutched the device tightly, her heart pounding. She wanted to speak, to ask questions, but the words wouldn't come. The alien stepped closer, its movements smooth and deliberate. It extended a hand, or what looked like a hand, toward her. "Do not be afraid," the voice said. "We mean no harm." The woman took a deep breath and finally found her voice. Who are you?" "We are the keepers," the alien replied. "Long ago, we made a promise to protect those who call for aid. Your signal reached us, and we have come to fulfill that promise." The woman's mind raced. Her husband had always spoken of a greater purpose, of a plan to save humanity. Could this be what he had been working toward? She looked down at the device in her hands. "My husband, he made this. Did he know about you?" The alien tilted its head slightly, as if considering her question. "Yes. He was one of the chosen. He understood the danger your world faced and prepared for this moment. The device you hold is a beacon, designed to summon us when the time was right." Tears welled up in the woman's eyes. All those years, her husband had been ridiculed and dismissed, but he had been right. He had seen the future and tried to save them. And now, his work had brought help from the stars. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We will evacuate those who wish to leave," the alien said. "We have a new world, a safe place where you can start again. But time is short. Your planet is dying, and we cannot save everyone." The woman's heart sank. She thought of her daughter, of the people still struggling to survive in the crumbling city. "I need to find my daughter," she said. "And others, there are others who need help." The alien nodded. "We will assist you. But you must hurry. The journey will not be easy, and there are those who will try to stop us." The woman felt a surge of determination. She had been forced out of her home, left to fend for herself, but now she had a purpose. She would find her daughter and convince her to come. She would save as many as she could. The alien led her to the ship, its interior glowing with soft, blue light. The walls seemed to pulse with energy, and the air was warm and comforting. The woman hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside. As the door closed behind her, she felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to hope. But she knew the hardest part was yet to come. She had to return to the city, to face her daughter and the chaos that awaited. The alien handed her a small, glowing orb. "This will guide you and protect you," it said. "Use it wisely." The woman nodded, clutching the orb tightly. She took a deep breath and stepped back out into the ruined world. The ship's door closed behind her, and the alien's voice echoed in her mind. "We will wait for your return. Be swift." The woman looked toward the city, her resolve hardening. She had a mission now, and nothing would stop her. The city was even worse than she remembered. Buildings that had once stood tall were now reduced to rubble. Fires burned in the distance, and the air was thick with ash. The elderly woman moved cautiously, clutching the glowing orb the alien had given her. It emitted a soft light, guiding her through the chaos. Her heart ached as she thought of her daughter. She had been so harsh, so desperate, when she had forced her out. But the woman understood now. Fear and survival had driven her daughter to make that choice. She just hoped it wasn't too late to make things right. As she approached the neighborhood where they had lived, she saw a group of people gathered around a makeshift fire. They were thin and ragged, their faces etched with exhaustion. She recognized some of them, neighbors, friends, people she had known for years. They stared at her as she approached, their eyes wide with surprise. "You're alive," one of them said, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman nodded. "I need to find my daughter." "Is she here?" The man hesitated, then pointed toward a nearby building. "She's inside." "But, she's not the same." "None of us are." The woman thanked him and hurried toward the building. Her heart pounded as she pushed open the door. Inside, she found her daughter sitting on the floor, her head in her hands. She looked up, and for a moment, their eyes met. "You," the daughter said, her voice cold. "Why are you here?" The woman took a step forward, holding out the glowing orb. "I need you to listen to me. There's a way out of this. A way to survive." The daughter laughed bitterly. "Survive? There's no surviving this. The world is over. We're all just waiting to die." "No," the woman said firmly. "Your father, he knew this would happen. He made a plan. I've seen it. There's a ship, and they're here to take us to a new world." The daughter stared at her, disbelief written all over her face. "A ship? What are you talking about?" The woman took a deep breath and told her everything, about the device, the signal, the aliens, and their offer of evacuation. As she spoke, she saw the doubt in her daughter's eyes slowly give way to something else. Hope. "You're serious," the daughter said finally. "This is real?" "It's real," the woman replied. "But we have to hurry. They can't wait forever." The daughter stood up, her hands trembling. I didn't know. I thought Dad was just wasting his time. I thought." "It's okay," the woman said, stepping closer. "We can fix this. Together." For the first time in years, the daughter allowed herself to cry. She fell into her mother's arms, and they held each other tightly. The weight of their past mistakes and regrets seemed to lift, if only for a moment. But their reunion was short-lived. Outside, the sound of shouting and footsteps grew louder. The woman peeked out the window and saw a group of armed men approaching. They were led by a man with a scarred face and a cold, determined expression. "They're here," the woman said, her voice tense. "We need to go. Now." The daughter nodded, wiping her tears. "What about the others? The people out there, they deserve a chance too." The woman hesitated. She knew the aliens couldn't take everyone, but she couldn't leave without trying. "We'll tell them. But we have to be careful. Not everyone will believe us, and some might try to stop us." The two women stepped outside, the glowing orb lighting their way. The group by the fire turned to look at them, their faces filled with curiosity and fear. "Listen to me," the woman said, raising her voice. "There's a way out of this. A ship, waiting to take us to safety. But we have to go now." The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement, others shaking their heads in disbelief. Before anyone could respond, the armed men arrived, their leader stepping forward with a sneer. "What's this about a ship?" he demanded. The woman stood her ground. "We have a chance to survive. But we have to leave. Now." The man laughed. "Survive? There's no surviving this. But if there's a ship, it's mine. And no one's taking it from me." The woman and her daughter exchanged a worried glance. They were running out of time. The armed men surrounded the group, their leader glaring at the elderly woman and her daughter. The glowing orb in the woman's hand pulsed brighter, as if sensing the danger. "Give me that," the leader demanded, pointing at the orb. "And tell me where the ship is." The woman tightened her grip on the orb. "It's not yours to take. This is our only chance to survive. If you come with us, we can all leave together." The leader laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "I don't share. Hand it over, or I'll take it from you." The daughter stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "You don't understand. This isn't just about us. It's about everyone. If we don't leave now, we'll all die here." The leader's expression darkened. He raised his weapon, aiming it at the daughter. Last chance. Before anyone could react, the orb in the woman's hand flared with a blinding light. The armed men stumbled back, shielding their eyes. The woman grabbed her daughter's hand and shouted to the others, "Run! Now!" The group didn't need to be told twice. They took off, following the woman as she led them through the crumbling streets. The orb's light guided them, illuminating the path ahead. Behind them, the armed men recovered and began to give chase, their shouts echoing through the empty city. The woman's heart pounded as she ran. She wasn't as young as she used to be, but adrenaline kept her moving. Her daughter stayed close, her hand gripping hers tightly. The others followed, their faces filled with a mix of fear and hope. As they turned a corner, they came face to face with a collapsed building. The path was blocked, and the sound of the armed men grew louder. The woman held up the orb, and its light shifted, pointing toward a narrow alleyway. "This way," she shouted, leading the group into the alley. They emerged on the other side, only to find themselves in a part of the city that was even more devastated. Fires burned everywhere, and the ground was littered with debris. The woman hesitated, unsure of which way to go. "Mom, look," the daughter said, pointing ahead. In the distance, the alien ship hovered above the ground, its lights cutting through the smoke. The woman felt a surge of relief. They were close. But the armed men were closer. They burst into the open, their weapons raised. The leader fired a shot, and one of the survivors cried out, falling to the ground. The woman's heart sank, but she knew they couldn't stop. "Keep going," she shouted, urging the group forward. They ran as fast as they could, the ship growing larger with every step. The armed men continued to fire, but the orb's light seemed to deflect the shots, protecting the group. Finally, they reached the ship. The door opened, and the tall, silver alien stepped out. Its glowing eyes scanned the group, and the voice echoed in their minds. "Hurry! We must leave." The woman and her daughter helped the others inside, but as they turned to follow, the leader of the armed men appeared, blocking their path. "You're not going anywhere," he snarled, aiming his weapon at them. The woman held up the orb, her voice steady. "You can still come with us. There's room for everyone. The leader hesitated, his eyes flickering between the orb and the ship. For a moment, it seemed like he might lower his weapon. But then his expression hardened. "No," he said. "If I can't have it, no one can." He pulled the trigger. The shot rang out, but the orb's light flared again, deflecting the bullet. The alien stepped forward, its voice calm but firm. "You have made your choice." With a wave of its hand, the alien sent a pulse of energy toward the leader, knocking him to the ground. The woman and her daughter quickly stepped inside the ship, and the door closed behind them. As the ship began to rise, the woman looked out a window at the crumbling city below. She felt a pang of sadness for those they had left behind, but she knew they had done all they could. Her daughter put a hand on her shoulder. "We're safe now," she said softly. The woman nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes. But the journey isn't over yet." The inside of the alien ship was unlike anything the group had ever seen. The walls shimmered with soft, blue light, and the air was warm and clean, a stark contrast to the polluted world they had left behind. The tall, silver alien, whom the group had started calling the guide, led them to a large room filled with strange, cushioned seats. "Rest," the guide said, its voice echoing in their minds. "The journey will take time." The group sat down, their faces a mix of awe and exhaustion. The elderly woman held the glowing orb tightly, her thoughts racing. She looked at her daughter, who was staring out a window at the stars. "Are you okay?" the woman asked softly. Her daughter nodded, but her eyes were distant. I can't believe we made it. After everything that happened, we're actually safe." The woman reached out and took her daughter's hand. "We're not just safe. We have a chance to start over. Your father would be proud of us." Her daughter smiled faintly, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "I just wish we could have saved more people." The woman sighed. "I know. But we did what we could. And now, we have to focus on what's ahead." As the ship traveled through space, the group began to adjust to their new surroundings. The guide provided them with food and water, though the food was unlike anything they had ever eaten, soft, glowing cubes that tasted sweet and filled them with energy. One by one, the survivors started to open up, sharing their stories. There was an older man who had lost his entire family, a young woman who had been separated from her friends, and a teenager who had been living on the streets long before the world fell apart. They bonded over their shared experiences, finding comfort in each other's company. But not everything was easy. The teenager, in particular, struggled to adapt. He was angry and withdrawn, lashing out at the others whenever they tried to talk to him. "Why do you even care?" he snapped one day, after the elderly woman offered him a glowing food cube. "You don't know me. None of you do." The woman sat down beside him, her voice gentle. "You're right. We don't know you. But we're all in this together now. And if we're going to make it, we need to trust each other." The teenager glared at her, but he didn't pull away. After a moment, he took the food cube and muttered, "Thanks." As the days passed, the group began to form a fragile sense of community. They took turns telling stories, playing games with objects the guide provided, and even laughing together. For the first time in years, they felt a glimmer of hope. But the journey wasn't without its challenges. One day, the ship suddenly shook violently, throwing everyone off balance. The lights flickered, and a low, ominous hum filled the air. "What's happening?" the daughter asked, her voice panicked. The guide appeared, its glowing eyes brighter than usual. "We have encountered an anomaly. It is dangerous, but we will navigate through it." The woman clutched the orb, her heart racing. "What can we do to help?" The guide looked at her. "You must stay calm. The journey will be rough, but we will survive." The ship shook again, harder this time. The group held onto each other, their faces pale with fear. The teenager, who had been so angry and distant, suddenly reached out and grabbed the woman's hand. "I'm scared," he admitted, his voice trembling. "It's okay," the woman said, squeezing his hand. "We'll get through this. Together." The ship continued to shake, the lights flickering on and off. The group held their breath, praying they would make it through. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the shaking stopped. The light stabilized, and the hum faded away. The guide reappeared, its voice calm. "We have passed through the anomaly. The worst is over." The group let out a collective sigh of relief. The woman looked around at the others, her heart swelling with pride. They had faced danger and come out stronger. But as she looked out the window at the endless expanse of space, she couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest challenge was still ahead. The ship was quiet after the anomaly, but the tension among the group was palpable. The elderly woman could feel it in the air, a mix of relief and lingering fear. She sat with her daughter, the glowing orb resting in her lap. The teenager, who had been so distant before, now sat close by, his earlier anger replaced by a quiet gratitude. "What do you think the new world will be like?" the daughter asked, breaking the silence. The woman smiled faintly. "I don't know. But I hope it's a place where we can start over. A place where we can build something better." The teenager looked up. "Do you think it'll be safe?" "It has to be," the woman replied. "After everything we've been through, we deserve a little peace." But peace was not yet within their grasp. The guide appeared suddenly, its glowing eyes brighter than usual. "We are approaching the final phase of our journey," it said. "But there is a problem." The group tensed, their eyes fixed on the guide. "What kind of problem?" the woman asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. "The ship's energy core has been damaged by the anomaly," the guide explained. "We do not have enough power to reach the new world." A murmur of panic spread through the group. The daughter gripped her mother's hand. "What does that mean? Are we stuck?" The guide shook its head. "There is a way to restore power, but it will require a sacrifice. One of you must connect to the energy core and manually stabilize it. The process will be dangerous, and the person who volunteers may not survive." The room fell silent. The weight of the guide's words hung heavily in the air. The woman looked around at the group, her daughter, the teenager, the older man, the young woman. Each of them had already lost so much. She couldn't ask any of them to make this choice. "I'll do it," she said, standing up. "No," her daughter cried, grabbing her arm. "You can't. There has to be another way." The woman placed a hand on her daughter's cheek, her eyes filled with love and determination. "This is why I'm here. Your father gave me this orb, this mission, for a reason. I have to see it through." The teenager stood up, his voice trembling. "You've already done so much for us. Let me do this." I don't have anyone waiting for me." The woman shook her head. "You have us now. And you have a future. Let me do this." The group watched in silence as the woman handed the orb to her daughter. "Take care of this," she said. "And take care of each other." The guide led her to the energy core, a massive, pulsating structure deep within the ship. The air around it crackled with energy, and the woman could feel the heat radiating from it. "Are you certain?" the guide asked. The woman nodded. "I'm ready." She stepped forward, placing her hands on the core. A surge of energy shot through her, and she gasped as her vision blurred. Images flashed before her eyes, her husband, her daughter, the life they had once shared. She held on to those memories, letting them guide her as she focused on stabilizing the core. Back in the main room, the group waited in tense silence. The daughter clutched the orb, tears streaming down her face. The teenager stood beside her, his hands clenched into fists. Suddenly, the ship shuddered, and the lights flickered. For a moment, everything went dark. Then, with a loud hum, the power returned, stronger than ever. The guide reappeared, its voice solemn. The energy core is stable. We will reach the new world soon. The daughter's heart sank. And my mother? The guide hesitated. She succeeded. But the process was too much for her body. She is gone. The room fell silent, the weight of the loss pressing down on them. The daughter sank to her knees, clutching the orb tightly. The teenager knelt beside her, his own eyes filled with tears. She saved us, he said quietly. She gave us a chance. The daughter nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. She always believed in us. Now it's up to us to make her proud. The ship descended slowly through the atmosphere of the new world, the windows filling with a breathtaking view. Lush green forests stretched as far as the eye could see, interrupted by sparkling rivers and towering mountains. The air was clear, the sky a vibrant blue. It was a world untouched by destruction, a world full of promise. But for the group inside the ship, the beauty outside was bittersweet. The elderly woman's sacrifice weighed heavily on their hearts, and her absence left a void that none of them could ignore. The daughter sat by the window, the glowing orb resting in her lap. She stared out at the landscape, her eyes filled with tears. The teenager sat beside her, his usual anger replaced by a quiet sadness. She would have loved this, the daughter said softly. She always believed in second chances. The teenager nodded. She gave us that chance. We can't waste it. The ship landed gently in a clearing surrounded by tall trees. The door opened, and the group stepped out, their feet sinking into the soft grass. The air was fresh and sweet, filled with the sounds of birds and rustling leaves. The guide emerged from the ship, its glowing eyes scanning the group. This is your new home. It is a place of peace and possibility. But it is also a place of responsibility. You must work together to build a future here. The group nodded, their determination outweighing their grief. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they also knew they had no other choice. The daughter took a deep breath and turned to the others. We'll start by setting up a camp. We need shelter, food, and water. Let's divide the tasks and work as a team. The group quickly got to work. The older man and the young woman gathered materials to build shelters, while the teenager and the daughter explored the area for a source of fresh water. The guide provided them with tools and guidance, but it was clear that this was their journey to navigate. As the sun began to set, the group gathered around a small fire they had built. The shelters were basic but sturdy, and they had found a nearby stream for water. For the first time in what felt like forever, they allowed themselves to relax. The daughter held up the glowing orb, its light blending with the fire's glow. This was my mother's, she said. It brought us here. It saved us. And now, it's a reminder of what she believed in: hope, resilience, and the strength to keep going. The teenager looked at her, his eyes filled with respect. She was amazing. And so are you. The daughter smiled faintly. We're all in this together. And as long as we have each other, we'll be okay. The group sat in silence, the fire crackling softly. The stars above were bright and unfamiliar, a reminder of how far they had come. They knew the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but they also knew they had the strength to face them. As they drifted off to sleep, the daughter held the orb close, feeling a sense of connection to her mother. She knew her mother's sacrifice had given them this chance, and she was determined to make the most of it. Months had passed since the group arrived on the new world. What had once been a clearing in the forest was now a thriving community. Simple shelters had been replaced with sturdy homes, and the land around them was filled with gardens, fruit trees, and even a small school for the children who had been born since their arrival. The daughter stood at the edge of the village, looking out at the horizon. The glowing orb, now a symbol of hope for the entire community, rested in her hands. She had carried it with her every day, a reminder of her mother's sacrifice and the legacy she had left behind. The teenager, now a young man, approached her. He had grown taller and stronger, his once angry demeanor replaced by a quiet confidence. "You've done it," he said, gesturing to the village. "She'd be proud of you." The daughter smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "We've all done it. Together. That's what she would have wanted." The young man nodded. "I never thought I'd have a family again. But you, all of you, you've given me that." The daughter placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've given us just as much. We're stronger because of you." As they stood there, the rest of the group joined them, the older man, the young woman, and the children who had been born in this new world. They gathered around, their faces filled with pride and gratitude. The daughter held up the orb, its light shining brightly in the fading sunlight. "This isn't just a symbol of where we came from. It's a symbol of who we are. We've faced loss, fear, and uncertainty, but we've also found hope, strength, and each other. My mother believed in us, and now it's up to us to honor her legacy." The group nodded, their hearts filled with determination. They knew the journey wasn't over, there would always be challenges to face and obstacles to overcome. But they also knew they had the resilience to face whatever came their way. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the daughter placed the orb in the center of the village. It became a beacon, a reminder of their journey and the sacrifices that had brought them here. The young man stepped forward, his voice steady. "We'll keep building. We'll keep growing. And we'll make sure her sacrifice was worth it." The daughter smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "We will. Because that's what she taught us, to never give up, to always believe in each other, and to keep moving forward, no matter how hard it gets." The group stood together, united by their shared past and their hopes for the future. They knew they were part of something bigger than themselves, a legacy of resilience, love, and the unbreakable human spirit. And as the stars began to appear in the night sky, they felt a sense of peace. They had found a new home, not just in this world, but in each other.